Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Today we're going to recap last night's Monday Night Football game between the Seahawks and the Giants. Major League Baseball playoffs begin today. We'll give out the picks for today's games, and I'll talk about what I picked for each series as well as this segment goes through. We have soccer. I believe we have UEFA Champions League, so that is pretty important. We have a portfolio wager to give out, NFL power rankings, news and notes, and best bet. We'll start with Monday Night Football. It was a dud of a game. Best bet did not come through. You can thank the Giants offense for that. Seattle wins 24-3. Seattle's 3-1. The Giants are 1-3. Geno Smith in his first game back to MetLife, he got hurt, and Seattle still found the way to win. 13 of 20, 110 yards and a touchdown, and Daniel Jones was terrible. 27-34, 203 yards and 2 picks. It was one of the worst games I've seen him play since Brian Daboll has arrived. And he was 10 for 66 on the ground. And this kind of shaped out like the Dallas game, but this is obviously a much weaker opponent, and now we know that that second half against Arizona was just a mirage, it looks like, and Arizona really tried to tank that game. And Seattle, who knows? Maybe it's their year. I doubt it, but I think last night said a lot more about the Giants than it did about Seattle, but you never know with these kinds of things, because we thought week one said a lot about them were against the Rams, and then the Rams turn around and bounce back, and in Seattle, just won 3 straight since that terrible Rams defeat. So you never know in the NFL with this kinds of stuff. All right, now I'll move on to the Major League Baseball playoffs. We have 4 games today. 3 o'clock on ABC, Rangers-Rays. So baseball on ABC, you don't see that very often, except in the postseason. So we have to do the announcers. Sean McDonough, Jess Mendoza, Tim Kirchin, Coley Harvey on the call for this. And the Rays are minus 152. The Rangers are plus 128, over under 7.5, minus percentage each way. Rangers plus 1.5 is minus 166. Rays minus 1.5 is plus 135. My pick for this series was Rays in 3, not Rays in 5. If it was best of 5, I probably would have said Rays in 4 or 5. But Rays in 3 is the series pick. But my pick for game 1 is the under. Baseball playoffs and the unders, especially early in the postseason, are a match made in heaven, so I'm going to go with the under. And then, by the way, on the radio for this, on ESPN Radio, is Mike Monaco and Todd Frazier. And then 4:30 ESPN, Blue Jays Twins, Michael Kay, Alex Rodriguez, Eldon Gonzalez on TV. And on the radio, it's Dave O'Brien and Kyle Peterson. So the Yankee play-by-play announcer gets a spot for the second year in a row. The Jays are minus 102. The Twins are minus 116. Over under 7.5. Over is minus 105. Under is minus 115. Jays minus 1.5 is plus 168. Twins plus 1.5 is minus 205. I'm going with the Blue Jays. I picked them to win the series. They're better than the Blue Jays. They have more talent than the Blue Jays. Or than the Twins. I'm sorry, this is the Blue Jays. I meant to say that. So they're better than the Twins. They have more talent than the Twins. So I'm going to take the Blue Jays at minus 102 against Minnesota. And I did pick Blue Jays in 2. 7 o'clock on ESPN2, you have the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. For the series, I went with the Brewers in 3 games. They are a minus 180 favorite today. And by the way, Blue Jays Twins, it's Kevin Gausman and Pablo Lopez. This is Brandon Pfaadt and Corbin Burns. Can't believe Brandon Efat is a Game 1 starter. That's pathetic. The Brewers are minus 180. The D-backs are plus 152 over under 8. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. D-backs plus 1.5 is minus 137. Brewers minus 1.5 is plus 114. So I'm not starting to fade my Brewers World Series future yet. I can't do that. I'm going to do it when the time comes. And if they might have to be tomorrow if the D-backs pull off the upset, which I doubt. But for this game, I'm going to go with the under again. Although that and the Brewer run line in the same game parlay is interesting. And then last but not least, 8 o'clock, ESPN, Marlins, Phillies. And by the way, announcers, D-backs, Brewers, TV, Boog Shambi, Doug Glanville, Jesse Rogers. On TV, radio, Roxy Bernstein, and Greg Olson. The baseball Greg Olson, not the football Greg Olson. The Marlins, Phillies is the Sunday Night Baseball group. Carl Ravage, Eduardo Perez, Buster Olney, David Cohn. And on the radio, it's Mike Cousins, Chris Burke. Are the Sunday Night group in the right series? I'm going to say no. I think it's favoritism towards the Phillies, quite frankly. I honestly thought that group was going to be doing the Rays-Rangers series. But I think they didn't put them there is because of the injuries in the Rangers rotation. That's just my opinion. But Marlins-Phillies is where the Sunday night group is. The Phils are minus 162 at home. The Marlins are plus 136. Over under 7.5. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 108. Marlins plus 1.5 is minus 166. Phils minus 1.5 is plus 138. So it's Jesus Luzardo, Zach Wheeler. This is a tough one. I'm going to go with the under again. I just think that Zach Wheeler is going to be the horse in the postseason that he was last season. And I don't trust the Marlins offensively. So I'm going to go under 7.5 between the Marlins and the Phillies. Okay, now I'll move on to soccer. We will go over notable results and look ahead to everything going on today, which today's pretty busy in soccer. So, Serie A, Monza over Sassuolo 1-0, Torino Verona 0-0 draw, and Fiorentina over Cagliari 3-0. La Liga, Las Palmas over Celta Vigo 2-1. English Premier League, Chelsea over Fulham 2-0. Then today, 2:30 of Luton and Burnley. So it's an interesting Premier League match today. Luton plus 190, Burnley plus 160, draw plus 210. Luton is 17 and Burnley is 19. Neither team's very good, so I'm going to go with the draw at plus 210. All right, UEFA Champions League. We'll get to in a second. Mexican Liga tonight. 9 o'clock, you have Puebla and Monterrey. Monterrey's minus 140, Puebla plus 340. The draw is plus 280. Monterrey's 10th and Puebla's in last. Puebla actually has not played poorly of late. But I think Monterrey's better. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals plus 150. And then America and Pachuca. America's minus 175, Pachuca plus 420, the draw is plus 310. America's in first and Pachuca's all the way down in 14th. America deserves to be favored. I'm going to do under 2.5 goals at plus 116. And now Champions League. Group stage. We have several games. All right, first up is 12:45 FC Salzburg and Real Sociedad. Salzburg's plus 195. Sociedad's plus 145. The draw is plus 220. So this is Group D. So Sociedad drew last time and Salzburg won. Real Sociedad's just a better team. I'm going to take them at plus 145. Union Berlin and Braga. This is Group can't find the group this is. This is Group C, and neither team won its first match. Berlin's minus 110, Braga 3-1. The draw's plus 660. I'm going to Union Berlin minus 110. All right, 3 o'clock, Napoli and Real Madrid. This is the same group. It's a pick of essentially minus 160 each way. The draw's plus 260. I'm going with the draw plus 260. I don't feel good about it. Man United and Galatasaray. This is Group A. Man United's minus 10. Galatasaray plus 550. The draw's plus 360. I'm going to do over 3.5 goals plus 132. Lens Arsenal. This is Group what group is this? Group B. Arsenal's minus 135. Lens is plus 410. The draw's plus 280. This one, we're going to go over 2.5 goals at minus 108. Inter Milan and Benfica. Inter's minus 150. Benfica plus 390. The draw's plus 310. This is Group D. Inter's the better team. We're going to do under 2.5 goals at plus 136. PSV and Sevilla. PSV's minus 120. Sevilla's 3-1. The draw's plus 280. We're going to go under 2.5 goals at plus 130. And by the way, the group for this, I think, is Group F, if I'm not mistaken, or Group B. PSG's Group F. PSV's Group B. So that's it for Champions League today. And then today we also have ELC. So 2:45 Birmingham and Huddersfield. I just want to pull that league up real quick. Birmingham plus 125, Huddersfield plus 220, draw plus 220. I'm going Birmingham plus 125. Ipswich Hull. Ipswich minus 145, Hull plus 340, draw plus 290. Under 2.5 goals plus 124. Borough Cardiff. Borough minus 120, Cardiff plus 3-1. The draws plus 260. Over 2.5 goals minus 116. Plymouth Millwall. Plymouth minus 1 or plus 145. Millwall plus 175. The draws plus 240. I'm going to go with the draw plus 240. 3 o'clock Stoke and Southampton. Stoke plus 155. Southampton plus 170. The draw plus 240. I'm going with the draw plus 240. And then West Brom Sheffield Wednesday. West Brom minus 175. Sheffield's 5-1. The draw's plus 280. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at plus 106. Okay, now move on to the portfolio. There was a lot of soccer today for the Champions League game today and whatnot. So, usually I like to do NFL value with the portfolio. And also this time of the year is the Major League Baseball playoffs. So, for portfolio for today, I'm going to lay a fifth of a unit. I'm going to shop around futures and whatnot. All right, so the Houston Texans are plus 460 to win the AFC South, and that's still a good number, I would say. Oh my God, the Giants right now are 65-1 to win the NFC East. That's funny. Commanders 24-1. Yikes. Bears 55-1. How do the Bears have better odds or shorter odds to win the NFC North than the Giants to win the East? I think it says a lot about how they feel about the NFC North and how bad that division is. Green Bay plus 340 has some value, but the Lions already beat them. The Bucs are plus 185 to win the NFC South now. Falcons 2-1. Seahawks are 7-1 to win the NFC West. Like, if they beat San Francisco head-to-head, like, that's a pretty good bet. And I also want to look at college football. Penn State to win the Natty is 11-1. I would wait to see how the Ohio State game plays out before betting. But there's a couple of quarterbacks that could win the Heisman. One that jumps out to me is Tyler Van Dyke at 30-1. But all these guys that are on the undefeated teams keep moving up, and Cam Ward's 30. Jalen Daniels probably fell down after. Oh, there is one I like, and I might go for it for the long shot. Oh, Miami's plus 550 to win the ACC now. Which is value, but not value I'm necessarily looking for. Kentucky to win the SEC East is 13-1. That's just betting on them to beat Georgia, pretty much. But there was a Heisman number that jumped out at me. I know they're playing Ohio State this week. But Tolia Tagovailoa is 150-1. They're undefeated right now. Oh, and there's one more I want to see. A conference winner. A team that's 4-1. West Virginia is 30-1 to win the Big 12. Just wanted to throw that feature out at you guys as well. But of all the things I gave out, or not necessarily gave out, but you know what I mean, talked about, the one I like the most is Van Dyke at 30-1 to win the Heisman. So I'm going to do a fifth of a unit on Tyler Van Dyke at 30-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. Okay, now I'll do my NFL power rankings. We were going to do NHL center rankings today, but we don't have time. So what I'm going to do is I will do that tomorrow. And then Thursday, we'll do left wings. Friday, we'll do right wings. And then Monday, we'll do left defense. Tuesday, we'll do right defense. The top 100 players we'll do on Wednesday, even though it's a day into the season. But that's okay. We'll do that on Wednesday. And then the hockey preview and predictions show will drop. Couple parter, maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. Probably Monday. But I won't be surprised if I start it on Sunday. So that will be that. So NFL Power Rankings. We will go from 3 to 1. We're just going to talk about each team. Big picture stuff through the quarter pool of the season. All right, so number 32 is the Chicago Bears. They're 0-4 coming off the loss against the Broncos. They play Thursday night against the Commanders. I suggest people do not put the Commanders in a tease or as a survivor pool pick because they almost lost to the Cardinals in week 1. So the Bears, I think, are the worst team in the league. Justin Fields is somebody I think that's on the chopping block. Matt Eberflus, I'm surprised isn't fired yet after blowing that Broncos game and with all the drama the Broncos have had. So the Bears are just a disaster, and they are masking other messes in the NFL, which we'll get to. 31's the Carolina Panthers. They're also 0-4 coming off the loss against the Vikings. And then coming up for them, they will be at Detroit. And it's weird that they played better with Andy Dalton than Bryce Young. And a good overreaction for the Panthers is whether they blew it with Bryce Young and if they had C.J. Stroud instead. If they had C.J. Stroud instead, they probably have a win, maybe 2 wins. Number 28, or 28, I'm skipping ahead. 30's the Denver Broncos. They're 1-3 in the year with the comeback win over the Bears. Next up for them, a very winnable game at home against the Jets. So the Broncos, in a week from now, we're doing power rankings, have a shot to be 2-3. How about that? So don't write the Broncos off yet. So coming up for them, they are at the Jets. Russell Wilson came alive a little bit in that comeback, but I think that was said more about the Bears than the Broncos. But the Broncos have a chance to right the ship a little bit, so that's good for them. Number 29 is the Arizona Cardinals. They are 1-3 in the year, coming off a blowout loss against the 49ers. Coming up for Arizona, I believe they have a bye, if I'm not mistaken. Because I don't think I saw them on the schedule. I wrote down the byes. No, they do not have a bye. They host the Bengals. That's my mistake. So the Cards, other than that Niners game, competitive this year. Not the worst team in the league. Congrats to Jonathan Gannon. 28 is the Las Vegas Raiders. They are 1-3 in the year, coming off the loss against the Chargers. Very close loss, competitive. Coming up for them, they're hosting the Packers on Monday Night Football. That game should not be on Monday Night Football. Those two teams are not good, especially the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell was promising in that game, and Joe Buck last night in the broadcast said the Raiders hope to get Jimmy G back. Hey, maybe they don't want Jimmy G back. Maybe they hope to get him back to up his trade value. That's my takeaway for the Raiders. Number 27 is the New York Football Giants, 1-3 on the year, coming off the loss against the Seahawks, where they only scored 3 points. Coming out for them, they're at Miami. That's going to be literally a bloodbath murder for the Giants, as they're trying to avoid going 1-4. What a mess. what we learned, obviously, is that this is the team that struggled against the 49ers and the Cowboys, and the first half against Arizona, and Arizona probably tanked that second half against the Giants. So that was my biggest takeaway. And this is obviously the worst playoff team from last year, for sure. And it's not even close, because Minnesota, we'll talk about them in a little bit, they should be 4-0, arguably. And they have the best receiver in football in Justin Jefferson, or if not one of the best, too. But the Giants are a mess. It's like nothing's changed from even 2 years ago, and last year's this some mirage that they took advantage of Aaron Rodgers quitting on the Packers and Tom Brady getting old. Although the Bucs did make the playoffs, but they were just in the terrible NFC South. And them and a couple other teams, I think, took advantage of Rodgers quitting on the Packers last year. And now it's kind of like back to mediocrity. 26 is the New England Patriots. I think this is the AFC's version of the Giants, with a quarterback with the last name Jones that's struggling and a ton of injuries everywhere. But the difference is that the Giants have a coach that I still like, but the problem is they're just not talented. And I feel like the players are more disciplined than they've been in years past. And Bill is just a guy that I feel is not a good coach anymore, because he lost Tom Brady and he got old. And is hiring a family on his staff, and that obviously is not the solution either. So the Patriots' bad loss against Dallas, and then coming up for New England, they host the Saints in what is a terrible game. 25 is the New York Jets. They're 1-3 on the year, coming off a loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, in which people are saying it's a moral victory. Shut up with moral victories. The Jets have no business, or had no business being in that game. I feel like the Chiefs were all giddy because Taylor Swift was in the building, and the Jets played inspired because of it. Hey, maybe she should have been at the building last night. Maybe that would have inspired Big Blue a little bit. But yeah, that's my take. And the Jets, to me, are still bad. Zach Wilson's the worst. Although he did play well, but that was only one game against a Chiefs team that was missing Nick Bolton. And obviously, you look past the Jets. And coming up for the Jets, winnable game against the Broncos. Not going to lie, winnable game. So maybe we're going to be talking about the Jets being 2-3 in a week from today. Either the Jets and the Broncos are actually going to be in nice shape in a week from today. We just don't know who it's going to be yet. And like I said, no moral victories in the NFL, and the Jets are getting too much praise for keeping that game competitive against the Chiefs. I'm sorry. They shouldn't be praised. This is the New York Football Jets we're talking about. That Zach Wilson is their starting quarterback. Still. Number 24 is the Washington Commanders. They are 2-2 on the year, coming off the loss against the Eagles. Ron Rivera should have went for 2, and he did not, and it was dumb. Coming up Thursday night against the Bears, get right spot, you would think, for the Commanders. So, with the chance of be over 500. Number 23 is the Minnesota Vikings. They're 1-3 in the year, coming off their first win at Carolina. Coming up for them, a home game against the Chiefs in what should be a high-scoring game. That's going to be a fun game with a lot of points in that game. Kirk Cousins just looked awful early in that game, throwing that 97-yard or 99-yard pick six. And back to the Giants for a second. I think Daniel Jones is officially the new auto bet in primetime, just like how Kirk Cousins was and Andy Dalton was. Now I think Daniel Jones has the title for sure in terms of quarterback that has to be auto bet against in primetime. But yeah, that was Cousins. Now that's Daniel Jones. But yeah, Cousins is going to be the talk of trade rumors, of course, because you would think they're not going to win this Kansas City game. And, imagine him on the Jets. Oh, I think it's too late for the Jets to trade for him unless they beat Denver on Sunday. But the Vikings can get a haul for Kirk Cousins. Absolutely they can. 22 Cincinnati Bengals. I need to stop giving this team the benefit of the doubt. Joe Burrow's obviously hurt. I don't like that people are saying, oh, he sucks all of a sudden. How about he's fucking injured? Get a grip, guys. Joe Burrow is clearly injured, but the Bengals are this low because they're 1-3, and they got smoked by a Tennessee team that still has Ryan Tannehill as its starting quarterback. But I do love Mike Vrabel. Everyone knows how I feel about him. So coming up for the Bengals, they are at the Cardinals in a game that's an absolute get-right spot for them. Number 21 is the Los Angeles Rams. They're 2-2 in the year, coming off the overtime win against the Colts despite blowing a 23-0 lead. In the process, the Rams are better than expected. Much better than expected. And maybe that's your surprise playoff team in the NFC this year. And they get Cooper Kupp back, and they have him and Puka and Atwell. So there's the makings of a bounce-back team right there that nobody expected in the Rams. And I have egg on my face for betting against them. And give them credit for getting that win. No one's going to be talking about them blowing that lead. And coming up for the Rams, they host the Eagles in what looks like an interesting game all of a sudden. Number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-2 on the year, coming off the loss against the Texans. They looked terrible. There's going to be people saying that this is the AFC's version of the Giants, but I think it's New England. I think Pittsburgh's much better than those two teams. Much better. And that's because they still have TJ Watt on their team. And the Giants and New England have nothing close to that on their defense. And same goes for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Neither of those teams have anything close to Minkah Fitzpatrick either. But Kenny Pickett struggled. I heard somebody suggest, I believe it was Bill Simmons, that they should go with Trubisky, which is disgusting. They should not go with Trubisky. Kenny Pickett got hurt in that game, as we know. And I think that maybe the Texans are good. We'll talk about them in a couple seconds. But yeah, terrible performance by the Steelers. Coming up for them, they host the Ravens in what should be a competitive game. 19's the Atlanta Falcons. They are 2-2 in the year, coming off the London loss against the Jaguars. Coming up for them, they host the Texans in what I think is an interesting game for both teams. It'll say a lot about both teams. And 18, ironically, is the Houston Texans. 2-2 in the year, coming off the win over the Steelers. They're 500, amazingly enough. Good for them. And then they're at the Falcons, and I think that's a winnable game for Houston. C.J. Stroud is much better than Desmond Ridder. Are you kidding me? And Stroud has to be the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's just special, C.J. Stroud. Like, he is so good. And they're one of the best rookie quarterbacks I've seen. Probably the best one I've seen since Joe Burrow, before Joe Burrow got hurt. And there's a couple other. I don't want to put him in the same class as like RG3, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson as rookies, because those three, amazing though they were. But this is, I think, the best rookie quarterback I've seen since Burrow, before Burrow tore his ACL. Next, number 17, the New Orleans Saints. They are 2-2 in the year, coming off a terrible loss against the Bucs. They should not have played Derek Carr. He clearly wasn't healthy. Coming up for the Saints, they are at the Patriots. Like I said earlier, that's a terrible game. The Saints, I don't think they're as good as I even expected. Listen, I think the Saints are going to be that good, but they look worse than I thought. They blew that lead against Green Bay, granted, not with Derek Carr, though. And Derek Carr's just clearly not healthy. And we saw that really with the Saints, just a confusing team. was really good defensively the first 2 weeks. I mean, their defense played well in the other 2 games, but their offense has a lot of toys on it, and it's just not coming together. Granted, they had some injuries as well. But I don't think they're as bad as, say, the Giants or New England right now. Maybe they are offensively. I just don't know that. We need more time. 16 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're 3-1 in the year, first in the division. Todd Bowles has to be the favorite for Coach of the Year right now with the job he's done. Although D'Amico Ryans is an interesting candidate I just thought about as well. Wonder what that is. Maybe I'll give out bonus portfolio picks on the podcast this week down the road. But Bowles has done an excellent job with this team. The one stinker they had was against the team that was just in the Super Bowl, in the Philadelphia Eagles, and they bounced back and beat the Saints. Granted, no Derek Carr, or I should say Derek Carr not healthy, but they have a bye this week. I don't like early byes for anybody. I don't think they're good at all for some of these teams, except for when you have injuries. And the Bucs really don't have any big injuries to speak of, other than Ryan Jansen. 15 is the Green Bay Packers. They are 2-2 in the year, coming off the ugly Thursday night loss against the Lions. They had a ton of injuries in that game, so I understand why they got their butts kicked in that game. And they had about as more injuries as I could remember, and I can count on my finger in that game. And now they have the long rest, and they play at the Raiders. They better hope they don't look like the Giants on Monday night, because the Giants, the long layoff was bad. Not that it mattered, but if they look as bad as the Giants did, then we have to talk about the long layoff being a thing. And then the long layoff helped Philly, obviously, between the Thursday night game and the Monday night game. So now Green Bay has that, and let's see with that trend and how Green Bay looks in Vegas against the Raiders. So let's keep an eye on that. 14 is the Indianapolis Colts. They are 2-2 in the year, coming off a very disappointing loss against the Rams. And now they host the Titans in a fun AFC South game. I think the AFC South all of a sudden is very interesting. We hated that division before the year, but now I think that division is turning out to be a fun division. So the Colts obviously better than expected this year. A couple plays away from being 4-0. And the Colts, this goes for the Texans and the Titans and the Jags as well. That division's better than we thought it was. So congrats to the AFC South. Number 13 is the Los Angeles Chargers. They are 2-2 in the year, so they rallied from 0-2 to go to 2-2. They beat the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell. And quite frankly, that game they could have lost, the Chargers. But then again, you could argue the Chargers should be 3-1 because you could argue they should have beat the Dolphins. So coming up for them is their bye. And I said early byes are not good. The Chargers can use an early bye. You know why? Because they have a ton of injuries. So I think the bye is going to help them in a big way. And Brandon Staley still is, quite frankly, the worst coach in the NFL. Like, it's not even a debate. So, he's obviously not going to get fired on their bye. He would have if they lost that Raider game, that's for sure. Number 12, the Tennessee Titans are 2-2 in the year. Some might say, oh, that's high. But hey, I was very impressed with the Titans against the Bengals. I was. And I thought Tannehill had a nice little bounce back as well. I love Mike Vrabel. He gets a lot out of his teams. He's one of the best. He's a top 3 coach in the NFL, in my opinion. And then coming up for Tennessee, they are at Indy. And like I said, a fun AFC South game. And the Titans, I think, are the feast or famine team of the year. They can look awful like they did against the Browns. Granted, Browns defense amazing. And they could look really, really good against the Bengals and the Chargers, two teams that were expected to be playoff teams before the year. Number 11 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're also 2-2 in the year, coming off the London win over the Falcons, a game that they absolutely needed. They're in London again this week. They played the Bills in what should be an interesting game. And my big takeaway on the Jags, they're yet another feast or famine team, but they're the hardest team to figure out, in my opinion. Them and ironically Tennessee are the two hardest teams to figure out right now, in my opinion. Who are they? Number 10 is the Seattle Seahawks. 3-1 in the year, coming off the win last night against the Giants in a game. I was not impressed with Seattle. I think they won that game because Devin Witherspoon ran back a 97-yard pick six by Daniel Jones. And if the Giants score on the drive, I think the Giants win the game. I really, really do. Because Seattle was about to self-combust, and then Devin Witherspoon intercepts the Jones pass 97 yards the other way, and that was the game pretty much. So the Seahawks, obviously, like I said, not an impressive 3-1. The Giants might stink for what we know. They probably do. Lions win nice, but they turned the ball over 5 times in that game. Probably should have lost. Or the Lions turned the ball over 5 times. That's what I meant to say. And then the other game they won was against Carolina, who is one of the 2 worst teams in the league. So in a super unimpressive 3-1, but 3-1. Coming up for them is their bye. And one more thing with Seattle, poor Jamal Adams getting hurt in that game. He was so frustrated. And Seattle, very undisciplined last night, but Daniel Jones passed them the game, as I mentioned 1,000 times already on the podcast. Number 9 is the Cleveland Browns. They are 2-2 in the year, coming off a terrible loss against the Ravens. They lost the game because Deshaun Watson got hurt. Coming up for them is their bye, and they can use their bye. Deshaun Watson can use that time to get healthy, and they have some other injuries that they have to take care of as well. But I'm a little worried about the Browns. Granted, their defense stunk in that game against the Ravens, but I'm concerned. They might not be this juggernaut defensively like we thought. Number 8 is the Detroit Lions. They're 3-1 in the year, coming off the win at Green Bay. Coming up for them, they host the Panthers. Either them or Miami is going to be my survivor pool pick this week. I'll reveal that on Friday's podcast. The Lions are good. They probably should be undefeated. They turned the ball over 5 times against Seattle. That's why they're not undefeated. But they should be. I'm not a big fan of their coach, but he's doing a nice job getting that team the 3-1 with the win over the Chiefs. Number 7 is the Baltimore Ravens. They are 3-1 the year, coming off the bounce-back win against the Browns. Coming up for them, they're at the Steelers in a game that you would expect them to win at this point. The Ravens should be undefeated. They should have beaten the Colts in that one game. So we got to take them seriously as a contender. Number 6 is the Miami Dolphins. I know it's low for them, but that was a very disappointing performance at Buffalo, in my opinion. They got blown out, and they're probably not the best team in that division, like I thought they were. And then they have a get-right spot against the Giants coming up. I get it. But very disappointing loss for Miami. And they need some guys to get healthy, like Teron Armstead and some others and whatnot. So we'll see with Miami, and they better bounce back against the Giants this week. That's all I got to say. They better, or else they can't be taken seriously. I'm sorry. And then you could argue they should be 2-2 because they should have lost to the Chargers in week 1. So you could go either way with the Dolphins, who I think are under so much pressure to beat the Giants on Sunday. Number 5 is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 4-0 in the year. They're one of the least impressive 4-0s I've seen. They should have lost to the Commanders on Sunday. The Commanders should have went for 2, like I said 1,000 times on the podcast. Coming up for the Eagles, they're at the Rams in a game that I think they can conceivably lose. But yeah, my takeaway for the Eagles is they're the most unimpressive 4-0 I've seen in a while. And that's with the talent they have on their roster. And I don't think Eagle fans are happy. Because I know Eagle fans. I know them. And maybe the Phillies can distract them a little bit. But I think the Eagles are in trouble at LA this week. For the Dallas Cowboys, 3-1 in the year, big bounce back win over New England after the Cardinals debacle. If it wasn't for the Cardinals debacle, I think the Cowboys would be number 1 or number 2 on this list. But they're getting healthier on the offensive line. And that game was obviously just a trap game. The Cowboys aren't as bad as they looked against Arizona. No way. So that was just one fluky result. It happens. It's the NFL. And coming up for them, they're at the 49ers in what is the NFC's game of the year so far. And maybe the game of the year of the NFL. I'm so excited for that game. Number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 3-1 in the year, coming off the win over the Jets. Coming up for them, they're at the Vikings. So the Chiefs and the Swifties make their way to Minnesota this week. I would expect that at this point it's going to be the Jim Nantz Tony Romo game. It should, because Jets-Denver has no business being it. It would have been Jets-Denver if Rodgers didn't get hurt, because then it would have been Rodgers-Wilson. But as we know, Russell Wilson stinks, and Zach Wilson's now the Jets quarterback with Rodgers out. So I would expect Chiefs-Vikings to beat Jim Nantz Tony Romo, especially with the Taylor Swift prospect. But yeah, my take is that the Chiefs looked past the Jets, and they were giddy with Taylor Swift in the building and New York and that whole deal. And Nick Bolton, low-key, a big loss on defense last week, and they kind of let the Jets hang around after getting off to that big lead. So, the not impressive 3-1 Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. And their defense, I think, has been really good other than the Jets game. And I don't think it's going to perform well against the Vikings either, meaning their defense. Number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. 3-1 in the year, coming off the big win over Miami. The Bills deserve to be in the 2 spot right now. They killed the Commanders the week before that. And then coming up for Buffalo, they are against the Jaguars in London in a game that is a losable game, for sure. And the wonkiest result of week 1 could very well be the Bills losing at the Jets and Zach Wilson. So we're talking about the wonkiest result being that Rams over the Seahawks game. This one might be it, the Jets over the Bills with Zach Wilson when we finish up the season. So keep an eye on that one. And then number 1 is the San Francisco 49ers. If there wasn't any doubt, they're amazing. They're simply the best. And they really are just a show. Christian McCaffrey has to be an MVP candidate at this point of the season. 4 touchdown game. against the Cardinals. He was amazing against the Giants. And they are just a machine. And if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's a failure. And coming up for them, they host the Cowboys in what is the game of the year so far. Although we said that about Dolphins-Bills, but that was a dud. 49ers-Cowboys isn't going to be a dud. That's going to be a dandy. And it should be an amazing game. For sure. And to me, hands down, the 49ers are the best team in the entire National Football League. All right, now move on to the news and notes for today. Power rankings went very long. I'm sorry about that. It's the NFL for you. So we know Geno Smith got hit in that game and was replaced by Drew Lock for a drive. And Drew Lock found Noah Fant, and they obviously had that Denver connection. And then the Giants missed a bunch of tackles, and that led to one of those touchdowns. And Geno Smith rips Isaiah Simmons for the dirty play that briefly knocked him out of the game. Of course he did. Geno Smith acted like a fucking baby in that game. And to me, that's not a good look. Like, you gotta... Yeah, he has the right to rip the hit, but he just acted like a baby. Just like he did when he was on the Jets and the Giants. And he didn't even play that well last night either. And we did talk about the knee injury just a second ago. He only missed one series pretty much, and then he came back for the second half. And then Brian Daboll didn't mince words about the pick six. He goes, Brian Daboll was asked what he wanted Jones to do on the pick six. He goes, obviously not throw an interception. Yeah, no shit. And obviously that was what decided the game. Because like I said, if the Giants score a touchdown there, they get all the momentum and they probably win the game. But no. And now the season's going down the toilet in a hurry. Sauce Gardner claps back at Patrick Mahomes as he gives his perspective on the controversial holding call from Sunday Night Football. But yeah, here's another hot take. Sauce Gardner's been disappointing this year. I just don't think he's been as good as he was. And he was terrible in that Cowboys game. And the Patriots are bad, as we know. He played well in the Bills game. But that was just weird. And then I don't think he played well in the Chiefs game. And then Jamal Adams was very upset with the concussion, obviously. And then Sauce called out the refs as he said the Chiefs got bailed out after the late flag wiped out his interception on Mahomes. And then Sauce Gardner also makes a joke about Taylor Swift and the Swifties as he said flag may not have been thrown if he was Taylor Swift fan. Oh my God. I don't blame him, and he deletes the tweet. He's probably, in a weird way, he might be right. But, I'll put it this way. That flag's probably not thrown if that was Kansas City throwing an interception on Zach Wilson. Or catching an interception from Zach Wilson. That's for sure. So, Trey White out for the year, torn Achilles. We all kind of expected that. That's really sad for the Bills. Jonathan Taylor returned to Colts practice as he'll be activated off PvP amid trade rumors. That's crazy. T. Higgins could play this week as he says his rib injury should not keep him out of extended period. Justin Herbert unlikely to miss time with the fractured finger on his non-throwing hand. Good news for the Steelers is that Kenny Pickett avoids ACL injury as he's likely to have brief absence after exiting. And he has a muscle strain and is unsure if he'll miss time. Really, add insult to injury for the Patriots. Matt Judon, bicep, and rookie corner Christian Gonzalez, shoulder injury, out indefinitely. So that's brutal for New England's defense. Brutal. Talk about more brutal for Pittsburgh. Pat Fryer moved out 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. That's also brutal. For sure. So a ton of NBA stuff, but we have to do baseball. Brendan Woodruff out for the NL Wildcard Series as his postseason availability is up in the air because of the shoulder injury. That's not good for the Brewers at all. Because then guys like Colin Rea are going to be starting playoff games for him, and that's not good. There's pictures that honored Tim Wakefield after his passing. The Mariners' George Kirby tossed a knuckleball Sunday after Wakefield passed away. So that's pretty neat. And by the way, Chiefs Jets got 27 million viewers, most watched Sunday show since the Super Bowl. Phil Nevin fired out of Anaheim. Not surprising. The Angels are a dysfunctional organization, as we know. He was on an expiring deal, but he was obviously fired. We'll see where the Angels go from here. Meanwhile, the New York Yankees are expected to run it back with Aaron Boone. That is a disgrace. You have the Angels letting go of Phil Nevin, who was only there for a year, and Aaron Boone, who's been there for 6 years, and gets chance after chance, and he makes excuse after excuse, and he literally gets to keep his job, and this was the worst managerial job he's done, going 82-80, deserves to be fired, and he's back. What a fucking disgrace that Aaron Boone is coming back, and that whole organization should have an overhaul. But Hal Steinbrenner just won't go there. He just won't go there. It's like Brian Cashman owns the team and not Hal Steinbrenner. Hal Steinbrenner is what people say about Jerry Jones. Literally. He is. Everybody mocks Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones stinks, and yada yada. Jerry Jones is actually a good owner, and actually has done a better job with football operations over the past couple of years than how Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman have done for the Yankees. And that comparison is accurate from an organizational standpoint for both teams. But Jerry Jones just doesn't get the credit he deserves for the Cowboys, honestly. And I'm saying that as a Jerry Jones critic from the past. And now the Yankees sit here in mediocrity and they bring back their manager who should have been fired during the pandemic, which they didn't do because it was the pandemic, and they, blamed COVID and brought him back, and now he's back yet again, and this is just pathetic. And the Yankees just need new of everything in the front office, but they won't go there because they just sit on their hands and say, "Oh, Aaron Judge stubbed his toe in Dodger Stadium, or else we would have won the World Series." That's probably what they're trying to tell their fans, but no, they won't tell their fans that. But they privately think that. And listen, if Aaron Judge doesn't stub his toe, they're definitely in the playoffs. They're probably the 5 seed in the American League. But that's not how the season went, unfortunately. I'm done with ranting on the Yankees. All right, NBA Media Day was yesterday. Kevin Durant commits to playing for Team USA in 2024, so that's pretty awesome. Kawhi's eyeing the Olympics and wanted to play for FIBA. LeBron says that Bronny has begun rehab process with aiming to play for USC this season, so that's pretty cool. The Warriors to evaluate Draymond Green in 2 weeks with the ankle. James Harden was not at Sixers Media Day as he remains upset he hasn't been traded to the Clippers. Just get over it, James Harden. Just show up to work and get your baskets and make your money instead of sitting at home not doing anything. That's pathetic. Kawhi Leonard discusses the NBA rest rules. He says no league policy is helping me to play more games. Well, Kawhi, you gotta play, bro. Like, shut up, stop whining and complaining, and you gotta do what you gotta do, and just don't sit on your ass and cost the Clippers a playoff spot because of load management. Give me a break. Tyler Herro takes a shot at the Blazers as he may have been offended that the Blazers didn't want him. Devin Vassell got a 5-year, $146 million rookie scale extension. That's crazy that Devin Vassell got that money. But that's today's NBA, everybody. Tom Thibodeau roasts Evan Fournier. He says he had stats to back up bench and Evan Fournier. Reggie Bullock to sign with the Rockets after the Spurs bought him out. That's another veteran for the Rockets. The Sixers and the Clippers not close on Harden as teams have spoken recently, but there hasn't been traction. WNBA Aliyah Boston wins the Rookie of the Year. Unanimous vote. That's not surprising. She was incredible this year. Bryce James taking an unofficial visit with Ohio State. So that's interesting. Cooper Flagg cancels the Kansas visit as he visited UConn last weekend and set to travel to Duke later this month. I think Cooper Flagg's going to Duke. Like, just makes the most sense. Cooper Flagg screams Duke. I've been saying that on the podcast for weeks now. John Schneider would love to have that kid. And hockey news, Trevor Zegras, 3-year, a little over, or just under $6 million a year. Not a bad extension for Zegras. He's going to get paid more than that after that extension, you would think. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. So, best bet, obviously, we're only going to lay a quarter unit on it. We're going to go to the baseball playoffs because that's where the fun's at. And I am going to go with the first game, under 7.5 between the Rangers and the Rays. I just think that is a interesting number. I do not expect to see a lot of runs in this game. I think Glasnow pitches well. I think Montgomery pitches well. So I'm going to go under 7.5 between the Rays and the Rangers for my best bet of the day. So that's it for the show, and I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything. Hopefully we'll get center rankings in and a ton more. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.